Welcome to the TheDPost.com WVU Men's Basketball Sports Chat. I'm sports writer Todd Murray with sports editor Drew Rubenstein, who's filling in for Justin Jackson as he travels back from Norman, Oklahoma. Drew, last night the Mountaineers, had a tough loss against Oklahoma. Coach Huggins, after the game, talking a lot about the defense or lack thereof. I know it's been a theme we've been hearing a lot out of his mouth this year. They just don't guard people. What have you seen in that area?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's been the same story throughout the season. I mean, this is the conversation that we've kind of have had throughout the season. Every now and then WVU's put together 2 or 3 games where it seems like maybe they have things figured out and they're headed in the right direction. But still, if you look at the statistics, and Justin and I have done this a couple times, I mean, they're on pace to give up more points per game in like 12 seasons over the course of the season. And if you look at the number of times that opponents have scored over 70 points against them, it's the highest in the Bob Huggins era. So I guess that's the most surprising aspect of it too, is Bob Huggins has built his career on defense, sound defense, and rebounding. And you knew going into this season that was going to change a little bit, that he wanted to get more into the Big 12 style of play, and he wanted to get more high scoring, and he didn't necessarily want those grinded out type of games. But still, I don't think anybody thought that it would kind of just go backward the way that it has. And obviously that starts with the deficiencies that they have around the basket. They just don't have enough big men. They've continuously gotten dominated in the paint. You've got some freshmen. I think Devin Williams and Brandon Watkins and Nathan Adrian are showing some promise for future years, but still, night in and night out, they haven't been able to quite stack up against what they're facing in the Big 12.
I guess what's I think really been frustrating to Bob Huggins is that they go through this in practice. They know the tendencies of the players they're going to be guarding, and then apparently they get in the game and they don't stop anything that they've worked on stopping. And it just sounds like Coach Huggins just at his wits' end over that.
Absolutely, and to go off of that, I know Juwan Staten, the point guard, has mentioned several times that they go over very specifically, and the players all seem to get that in practice. And then, I mean, Staten's had some interesting quotes where he said something about the lights coming on or fans coming into the stands, and then guys just have blank stares and seem to not really know what they're doing. And you're exactly right. I mean, they've had issues around the basket, and that might be personnel, but you look at a game like last night and the amount of open shots that Oklahoma's better shooters were able to have, and the same thing was said in Baylor and Oklahoma State and other games where it's kind of perplexing how they lose the opposing team's best players. But that has certainly been something that has happened throughout the year. And in my opinion, at this point, you can't use inexperience as an excuse, because even though WVU is playing a lot of young guys, they've been playing them all season long, and even the sophomores played a lot as freshmen. So I mean, at this point in the ball game, there's something not quite right, and I don't think inexperience is just an excuse that can be used to cover it up.
Yeah. Then you get on the offensive end. I mean, they're just not making shots right now. Aaron Harris has had some big time struggles, particularly on the road the last couple games. He was 2 for 9 against Oklahoma, and let's face it, when Aaron Harris is not making shots, this team is in a world of trouble.
Yeah, and that's certainly the other way to look at it. Like against Oklahoma on the road, Oklahoma's a top 25 team, and they lost by 10 points. And we can say everything that we did about the defense, but the other side of the coin there is, if Aaron Harris makes the shots like he normally does, and if they weren't missing Terry Henderson, that over the course of the season, that's equated out to about 30 points per game for WVU. So if those two guys are there and doing what they normally do, maybe they win a game like last night, if you're just looking at it from a statistical standpoint. And there's no doubt that the absence of Terry Henderson has hurt this team a lot, because I think over the course of the year, in a lot of the games that WVU won, it wasn't necessarily that Juwan Staten, Aaron Harris, and Terry Henderson were all on, but usually Staten was pretty consistent in driving to the basket, and then you'd have Harris or Henderson going off for 15 to 20 points, and then that kind of it took care of things. But now that Henderson's been out with the illness, it's gone all on Aaron Harris, and I think that's allowed opposing defenses to just even more focus on stopping Staten and Harris, because aside from those two guys, there's really not been anybody who's been consistently producing for WVU on the offensive end.
Yeah, I guess WVU is just taking a wait and see with Terry Henderson. I know they haven't made any definitive statements about when he's coming back.
Yeah, it seems like as the last time the WVU spoke about it, I mean, he's been ill. He's lost a lot of weight. He was in Norman, Oklahoma for WVU's game Wednesday night. He had been cleared by the doctors to practice and even play. He obviously didn't, and it seems like even though he's back, he's still not back to full health. I mean, he's on the court, but he's not the player he was. So, I think they had hoped to get him back. I don't know what the chances are at this point for Saturday's game, but at least going into the Big 12 tournament, they would probably hope to get him back.
Yeah, good interesting matchup Saturday. Kansas coming in here, a sellout crowd. Kansas has already locked up the Big 12 title. WVU, needs a win in the worst way to try to get out of having to play on that first night of the Big 12 tournament. How do you see Saturday's matchup playing out?
No, I think it'll be interesting because on paper there's no doubt Kansas is the favorite, but when you really look at it, what these two teams can get out of this game, this is really a must-win for WVU, whereas Kansas, has locked up the 1 seed in the Big 12 tournament. Of course, they're playing for the keep the number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament, or potentially if they were to win out from here and win the Big 12 tournament, maybe they get a 1 seed. But they're not playing for nearly as much as West Virginia. You mentioned right now they're the 8 seed, so that would mean they play on the first day. And if you're looking bigger picture-wise, they've gone from the NCAA tournament bubble to the NIT bubble. I mean, I think this is a team that needs to win at least one more game to maybe even 2 games to really feel good about the NIT. But a win Saturday against Kansas, I think, would maybe seal the deal. So the WVU's playing for everything postseason-wise here.
All right, will be an interesting day Saturday here in Morgantown. Drew, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And please continue to follow the Mountaineers coverage on TheDPost.com.